Welcome back, fam. Welcome back, fam. It is your host, G Chromosome, on the Threshold Agenda. Glad everybody's still in the land of the living. Woohoo! Today we have a special guest. We're honored to sit down with Charles McTear, a proud son of Milligan, Florida, and the brother of sprinting legend Houston McTear. While Houston's accomplishments on the track inspired athletes around the world, every great story has a family behind it. Today we're talking about legacy, community, perseverance, and why it's important that future generations know the names and stories that helped put Okaloosa County on the map. Sorry about that. So, Mr. McTear, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to be here.
I'm glad you joined us today. You had a safe trip.
Yes, I truly did, except other than the traffic.
Right. Yeah. Everybody know about the traffic around here. So just jumping into it, tell us, what was it like growing up in Milligan, Florida?
Wow, I really didn't think much of it. It was home, until things started happening, and then things changed, and we moved from there to Crestview, and between there and Los Angeles has been my entire life. Yeah.
How much different is it back then versus now?
Well, it doesn't exist now. But back then it was just it was a nice community because it was just that one little road, that dirt road that stretched. And everybody knew everybody. And on Sunday, actually, after church, everybody got together. And we either played softball or, we just did something that whole community there did together. And then you go a little bit farther down the dirt road. There was a place we called the ballpark. And there was probably, 1, 2, 3. My dad's brother lived down there. And there was probably about 5 or 6 families that lived down there. And that's where, besides the little dirt road up by the mill, that's where we would go on a Sunday. And I had a friend, the Thomases, and it was like we went to their house because they had this big basketball goal out in front of the house, and we played softball there as well. So that was like the thing you did on Sunday.
Okay, now, at this time, this memory, these particular memories, what years were these? So people can get an idea of.
This was like in the early 70s, starting probably around about 1970 or late 60s, because my youngest sister, she was born in 1970 and we was there. Because I remember when my mom came home with her, right? It was all excited. My dad had a truck, so I was on the back of the truck. And right before it was pulling in the yard, I fell off the truck.
Oh my God!
So it was like it was the early 70s, and from that point, from early 70s, because we moved to Crestview in 76. Yeah. So we've been in that house. Well, I'm not in that house. My sister lives in that house now, but been there ever since 76. So it's been.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, the reason why I say that, and just to make sure, speak more directly, because it's not picking up, but it's getting you. To show the community back even at that time, because a lot of people don't think there was a sense of community, especially with the Black community at this time. So you're saying that the community was strong even though it was small?
Yeah, it was small.
Yeah.
And a lot of the racing actually started, like the whistle would blow at 4:30 at the mill. And so some of my uncles, they would come across the street, and that was the thing. We would race them. So they all took the time out to just play with us, I guess, and we would just race them after they done put in a whole day's work.
So what you're saying is you were training all the time.
Well,
just as a natural thing. It's not really training. You're just doing what you do.
It was just natural.
Yeah.
We at 4:30 when they crossed the track, it was like you had to race us, and we would race them to wherever house they were staying in.
Love it. When I was little, I ran all the time too, man.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know. This generation, they don't even want to go outside.
Yeah.
So, running and, having neighbors to be able to participate in things like this.
Yeah, because it was my dad's youngest brother, which he's still here today. And he was one, and my dad's uncle, my Uncle Willie, we would always race. They would every day, and we would race the train. Everybody raced the train. It wasn't just us. I think it was everybody that lived on that dirt road there that actually at some point was out there racing the train. Yeah.
Okay. I ain't racing no train.
Well, it was only could go so fast coming through there because it was actually finna come through Crestview. So it wasn't like it was going like 40, 50 miles an hour.
Right.
So it was pretty slow.
Yeah, that'll be a different kind of legend.
Yeah.
You 140, 50. Okay. So, what made your family unique particularly? Did y'all stand out even back then?
I don't know if it really stand out. Like I said, it was just one big community and everybody. And I think we start to stand out as my brother start to get noticed. It started when they was playing football. I think it was in '75, and my brother they played football together. My brother made the paper, right? So Houston said, "I'm gonna make the front page," and it just took off from there.
So you just gonna say you gonna make the front page and then make it?
Yeah. Well, not just make the front page. You made several front page and the cover of a magazine, because I think a lot of people are familiar with the Sports Illustrated, but and some today doesn't know about the Ebony magazine or the Jet magazine. So he was in all of those. So it was, and that kind of changed things when all of that started happening.
But it did. You make it because that was a very important magazine.
Yes, that Sports Illustrated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but see, that's all everybody know. They don't know about the Ebony magazine.
But into the black community, I remember growing up and that was it.
Yeah.
Every week. Of course, I'm a young boy, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember Jet. You got to get the Jet beauty.
Exactly.
You got to get the beauty of the week.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful black woman. This is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was in Jet magazine when he met his wife. She was from London. She had came over. She had a friend that lived in the States, and she ran track. And so she introduced him to my brother, and my brother just fell in love with her. And when she left, when her visa expired, and she had to go back to London, he wasn't competing well. So Harold and them brought him back.
Yeah.
we got to get him back on track. So they brought him back to the U.S. and they got married.
Awesome.
Had 2 kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what? As far as your parents are concerned, what did they instill into y'all that stands out even today? Is stuck with you?
What my parents, my mom did most of it. My dad just worked and provided. And my mom, because when my brother just started becoming a household name, he just thought that he could get away with just about anything because he's a household name. And she'd always tell him that I don't love you no more than I love the rest of them. Regardless of what they doing for you or what you do or how far they take you, I still don't love you no more than I love the rest of them. And that kind of stuck to this day. But we are a very close family to this day. We have a group chat where all of us is in that, we talk about. We'll talk about things like we were supposed to go to Ohio this week, but things came up and we couldn't go. So, everybody's in that chat and they would come in and like one of my nieces said, well, we're not able to attend, but I'm going to have Sam's Club deliver some drinks and stuff to the venue. So it's kind of a great communication gap. And I think that come from my mom's side because we are just so close with them. Actually, I was talking to someone from up there before I got here, but I think it's just the closeness that she just kind of kept us as a unit and nobody was better than the other one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so just so we make sure we got this right, I'm gonna turn your mic to because you lean to so turn it that way so that when you lean in and talk, you talk directly into the tip so it can pick you up.
Okay, so some passing the mic
because you kind of lean. I do that sometimes too, but with the new system, I just want to make sure that the audience get a chance to see and feel what you're talking about. So, what was Houston like before the world knew who he was?
There's a 5-year difference between us. And so he was like my big brother. And a lot of the things that, he would always be trying to show me, like, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to take you here. And I'm going to show you that. It was like, I'm showing you the world because I'm your big brother. And I remember one day I was going with my parents to the store, and he had come home from practice, track practice one day. So he jumped on the bike, and he was going to our friend's house, to Thomas's down the street. And so we got ready to cross the track, and there was someone laying in the bushes, and it was him. He was all cramped up, right? And he had cramped up, and he was still on the bike, but he had fell. And I was like, man, I want to be like that. Little did I know my wish was going to be granted. So still to this day, I was at my older brother's house the other day, and we was talking about the cramps, and I was like, yeah, man. I said, you know, he's like 70, and I'll be 64 in September. I was like, man, I thought that once we got this old, it would turn into flab, and you won't have those problems anymore. But they still there. So I was telling them what I use, and I went to the store and got some of the cream that I would use to help prevent the cramps, and I drench myself in it every day.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So I mean, so he didn't have a big head. He didn't think he was the fast guy, in the neighborhood, or did that start to
No, I
take a gap in?
no, it was just all fun, but he would always say it was a gift. So it never really went to his head. It was just, you want to race? Okay, we'll race.
Right.
I know I'm gonna beat you, but hey, if you want to race, let's race.
So competition between the brothers, was it always a constant thing, no matter what, not just running, but other things?
No, well, if it was sports, you always want to go up a little bit higher than that person, because when I started running, I always wanted to break some of the records that he had. I think that was just instinct, because I'm thinking, okay, if I can break this record, it's gonna put me up there a little bit higher to where he's at. And I know my dad's brother, he was like, well, it's never happened before that two brothers out of the same family would stand on that same pedestal or be as competitive, you know. And I never knew of it happening, but today it's so common now that, you got brothers playing, whether it be basketball, football, or whatever. You have siblings that
And now even fathers and sons.
exactly, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was never a moment of animosity or anything between that. I'm not. Yeah. So there was a love that he's reaching legendary status
Yeah.
that was known, and there was no, I'm gonna beat that.
Yeah, that was never that. It was just she was just this humble person, because it was instilled in us from my mother. And my dad, he was just a provider. He provided everything, and mom was a stay-home mom, and it was eight of us. It was four boys, four girls. And I think he just probably just did it a lot better than everyone else. My brother, he almost got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, but he tore his knees up. Uh and still to this day, everybody called him Block. They still call him Block today. And you can see where he done got the surgeries on his knees. But no, it was never ever any animosity amongst us.
Well, many people know Houston, but what is it like being Charles?
Um, it's kind of like I was always in the shadows, because when I was getting up there and I was starting to compete, and if I would win a race, they would never say Charles. They would always say the younger brother of Houston.
Man, I know how you feel with that one. I know what
So
that feels like.
basically, I lived in the shadows, and it always been that way. And sometime when I would go to track meets, because my boys, they ran, and when someone would figure out, okay, that's a McTear, so he's probably back from the Houston era, and they would all come to me, because I was in the stands right at the finish line, and this guy comes and he sits down right there in the walkway, and the Ursha had to tell him he had to move. He was in the, man, I remember you guys from way back in Milligan. I remember Houston way down in Orlando. So it was different, even after I've stopped competing, because my son, he ran for Grambling, you know. Yes, so, and now he's a teacher and track coach out in Bel Air High School in Houston. So he's still around it. There was some that said, Charles, well, why don't you get into it? I was like, well, just like it was amateur back then, it's still until you get that position where it actually pays you. But I still have bills that I have to take care of.
Real life. Yeah.
Yeah, real life. So I have to go to work,
Now,
fortunately.
now, do you think that Houston's accomplishment and the way the world treat him and what he's done, do you think that affected? How do you think that made you who you are? Do you think it was for the best that you didn't get this? Do you think your life would be different?
I don't think it would be different, but yes, I did get some privileges. I mean, some of the things that most people would probably see on television, I was actually there, witnessing. I was part of it. There was some things I didn't get to do with being there, but there was so many things and so many people that I got to meet just by simply being his brother, you know?
That's awesome,
Yeah. I mean,
especially with your values. You said your mother instilled in you.
yeah.
That go a long way.
Exactly, and it was so much because I remember when he was on the Converse list, so basically he ran for Converse, and they had a store in Westwood up by UCLA, and it was my birthday, and they let me come to the store and get everything I wanted. So I had all
Wait,
this
wait, wait,
covered.
wait. You got everything.
I got everything I wanted. I got so much stuff. I had stuff that lasted for years. And when my first son was born, we was at my buddy's house, and he was like, Brian. He said, your daddy got some shoes older than you, right? I had tons of Converse stuff, man. I had so much Converse stuff that it just lasted for years and years.
Okay, so looking back now, what are you most proud of in your journey?
And my journey, I think of it as Florida made me, California raised me, you know? And I learned so much there, and I still live by a lot of the stuff that I learned because I was just a young adult. I was just fresh out of school. He was trying to bring me out there before, but my mother told me I was not going. So when you finish school, you can go. So I finished school, and I was down in school in Gainesville, and he came for the Florida Relays, which they had at the University of Florida one year. And he was like, bruh, he said, you want to come back to LA? And I was like, man, you don't ask me if I want to come to LA. Tell me when we're leaving.
Right.
So everybody on the track team thought it was around about April. So they thought it was an April Fool's joke because I was telling them that I was leaving. I was going to go to LA. And so after that, went to LA, and everything just started happening. I worked with, I started out at the school in Southwest College, it was called, and it was an all black school. And I was fascinated to go out there, and I went into the neighborhoods and I see these 4-lane boulevards running through the neighborhood. I was like, wow, this is cool. So even though I lived it was between Beverly Hills and Bel Air and Westwood, right by UCLA. I always wanted to be in South Central LA for some reason.
What? What? What?
I learned the bus route, and I would go down there, and that's where all my friends was. And that, I just enjoyed hanging out down there because it was just so much that it was just, to me, it was huge. I mean, you think about you coming off of this little dirt road, and now here you are in this city that 25 million people resides in this city. So it was a big difference. And to see so many black people, I was fascinated by it, you know, and not knowing that I was privileged because everybody knew who I was. And if they knew my last name, they would. And I used to instill that in my kids. I said, well, if they hear your last name, they're going to ask you, are you related?
Right.
And most of the time, if you're a McTear, you probably are related somehow. So that was one of the privileges, when people would hear the name that, oh, you're Houston. Oh, and then they have to go through, I remember him here and I remember him there. So you'd always go through that. But it was just the things that I got simply because I was his brother. A lot of them thought I was this little rich kid, but I wasn't. Because I had things. He got me a car when I came. So I had me a nice car, and I just,
But you had it though.
yes, I had it. I didn't think I was rich or any different from anyone else because he worked for it. He competed, and that's how it was an amateur sport then, but you still made money.
Right.
And I remember I had gotten a ticket for an open container one time, and he was going to Harold that ran the Ollie Club and the track club. I got the ticket, and Harold said, he said, "Give it to me. I'll take care of it." Right. And so I gave it to him, and Harold probably sat that thing on his desk and never thought nothing else of it. So I was dropping my brother off at the airport at LAX. I was like, "Bro, where you going?" He said, "I'm going to Budapest." Right. He was going to be gone for a week. So I dropped him off, and I was coming back, came back to Westwood, and I didn't come to a complete stop at the stop sign. And I got pulled over by the police. And so when I told him my name, he was like, "Well," he said, "there's a warrant for your arrest because you didn't pay this ticket, so I have to take you in." And he didn't put me in handcuffs. I was like, "Hey, man," I said, "I just dropped my brother off at the airport. He won't be back for a week." I said, "Could I park the car and have his wife come and get the car, you know?" And he let me park the car,
Oh, okay.
right? And I didn't get in handcuffs, and I rode in the front seat with him.
Privilege, man. What?
Yeah, I was, like I said, I got a lot of privilege, and I did things that he used to tell me. He said, "Bro, you can't be down on the beach doing this. You can't be down on and I was like, "I got this, bro. I got this." And I got in trouble. And when they took me to jail, they didn't come and get me. When I was in Santa Monica, and then they took me downtown LA, and they were supposed to take me to San Fernando Valley, but I got mixed up and I got stuck down there. So they went there looking for me. And I was in there thinking that I was like, "Man, my brother done left me here in jail." I said, "When I get out, I'm gonna call my mama." But they was looking for me, and it wasn't him because he was over in Budapest. But his girlfriend was looking for me, and they went all of these places looking for me: Santa Monica, downtown, all the way out to San Fernando Valley. And they had them come back to the county jail in downtown LA and had them do a cell-to-cell body search for me.
Oh,
I was
man.
kind of lost in the system.
Wow, wow. So even though even though he is, he is who he is, was he ever become a time to where he was not Big Brother?
He was always Big Brother because he was always telling me, by him always showing me, he would always tell me the things I can't do or I shouldn't do. So he was always Big Brother.
Mm.
Now there's been lots of times that I ignored him. Got this. I'm grown now. I got
Right.
this. Yeah, but he was always my big brother, always showing me things. That was just him.
So tell us a story you got a story about him that nobody else may know about him.
Yeah. When I first came out there, even though his name is Houston, and so when I got out there and I messed around, we called him Edward because his name is Houston Edward.
Mhm.
My grandfather name was Houston, and my dad name was Edward. So he kind of got both of them named, but so we called him by his middle name, Edward. So when I got to L.A. and I forget what we was talking about, and I said Edward, and everybody looks around like Edward, and he says, "You don't know me that well."
Right, right. Look here now.
Yeah, he's like, "You don't know me that well."
Yeah.
So I had to kind of it throws everybody off, and I would say Edward, but that's what I was used to, was
Hmm.
calling him Edward. So that's something that nobody ever really knew. Yeah.
So if you wanted people to know one thing about him beyond the accomplishments and medals, what would that one thing be?
He was just as humble as me. He would give you your last. He would go above and beyond to help, and to do and give. Because I remember when he worked at Converse, there was so much stuff that he gave to people in the community right there in Venice. So he just always had that heart to give,
Mm.
and that was just him. Even though he had this thing that sometimes he'll try to be hard because he was a household name, but in the end, he was just a humble person.
So to change the subject a little bit, right?
Mhm.
You had a close friend that lived with sickle cell disease, passed away unexpectedly. Tell us about your friendship.
Um, wow. We we talked all the We was together all day in the yard. And I said we was gonna go home because we had to work the next day. And my sister called me, and she said, Charles, Joe passed away. I was like, I said, that's a sick joke because I just left him. It ain't even been 2 hours, you know. So she told me to call his brother. And I called his brother. And he was like, yeah, Charles, he said, we're at the hospital now, you know. And then shortly after that, it wasn't even a year because his son came in and found him. And so less than a year, the same thing happened to his mom. But everybody called me and asked me, Charles, are you okay? And I was like, you guys are asking me, am I okay? I said, what about Javelis? You know, this kid has came to his parents' house and found both of them. That's no
Oh,
longer
wow.
here,
Wow.
And today, I think he's went through some changes because one of my sisters has his daughter and she's raising his daughter. But we was together from little kids. We started the school together. We went through high school, went through adulthood together. So that day, we spent that whole day hanging out, and to go home and then someone call me and tell me that he's not here. And I know it haven't even been 2 hours. Haven't even been 2 hours since we just left each other and everything was fine, you know? But I know that they had been dealing with it. His whole family, pretty much everyone that's no longer here out of his family, that's what it was, sickle cell that they have been dealing with. And it went deep into his family, So, and I think there's only like 5 or 6 of them left, but every last one of them passed away of sickle cell. And his dad was really good friends of my dad. And I used to thought that when we went to the house, my dad just took us there to play with them because he had boys, I got boys, and I didn't. And then one day, as an adult, Joe said, he said, Charles, he said, you remember that moonshine still your dad and my dad had out in the woods? And I never ever went out in the woods. We was always just racing from the road to the house the whole time I was there. Every time I went there, we would just always race, you know? So we basically grew up together. And that was pretty hard, you know? And then when his wife called me, he was in Stockholm at the time, and she said, Charles, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I'm thinking something that happened to one of the kids, you know?
Hmm.
And so I was like, what's wrong? And I was like, what happened? They had a son named Isaac and Autumn. I was like, is Isaac and Autumn okay? Because I didn't think of that with him, you know? So here I am going through it again, and it kind of, it brings back just those times, but still I stand to this day, and sometime I look at a lot of the photos and see that these people aren't here anymore, you know?
I'm the vice president of We Reign Sickle Cell Corporation, and even though I see how you definitely was, a friend
Yeah,
to someone, and that's suffering, and a lot of times they suffer in silence. And
yeah,
I don't know how much you knew about sickle
I
cell
didn't.
back then, and that's what catches people off guard. And that's why we're here trying to educate and let people know that this is a real disease that's
Yeah,
it's very prevalent, and a lot of people have to suffer because of the way things go,
yeah,
and a lot of people don't even know they have it. And so
yeah,
they'll just be here, as you said, be here 1 minute, and the next
just gone.
they're just gone.
Yeah,
And most people, like, like confused, like, wait a minute,
What happened?
right?
And that's basically I never knew. I knew that they used to go places up in DC, and I think it was something about them studying. I guess I don't know, or I went there for a treatment, but I never thought nothing of it because he always appeared to be so healthy, you know?
It is an invisible thing.
Yeah,
You don't look like you have sickle cell. That's what
yeah,
most people don't want to
yeah,
get,
exactly.
you
And
know. Um, what made your friendship so special?
we grew up together and we were just always around one another and we just kind of kept each other grounded. And if I forgot something, he would always remind me, Charles, you remember so and so and so. And my memory is just, it's like a fish. 30 seconds later, if you don't say something to jar that, then I'd have no clue. But we just grew up because, I was always around them growing up from a little kid, and, because my parent would always take us to their house, and I didn't know what his dad and my dad was doing. I just thought he just took us there to play because
Right.
they had boys and we was all about the same age. So, and we played together on that first state championship game and that Baker had back in '80. You know, me, Joe, and Danny, we was the linebackers, you know, and we.
You was a linebacker? You don't look that big. You was a linebacker? You was a headhunter?
I was a linebacker. It all started out. I was a safety, but I was always coming up because I wanted to hit.
So you like a strong safety then?
Yeah, I was always coming up. So he was like, "Let's just move Charles to linebacker. You always want to hit somebody." So I got moved to linebacker, and I was outside linebacker. Joe was the middle linebacker, and Danny was on the other side. And we had went all the way to the state championship.
So he played football.
Yeah,
Did you ever see any of the signs during practice or games?
never did, never did.
Because a lot of athletes have it,
Yeah,
and some of them, it overtakes them, but some of them you just don't know. You can't tell.
I never ever saw any signs of it. And we played. I want to say it was 13, 14 games, and never saw any signs.
Even though he's a headhunter like you.
Yeah, I just never saw any sign, and maybe because we was kid and it never showed, you know? I just don't ever remember him going through anything or experiencing anything
Mhm.
as we played, and you gotta think about we would be out there in that hot sun, you know?
That's what I'm asking. Yeah,
But I never saw any signs, and we would be playing and we couldn't take our helmets off.
which can be
Yeah.
suffocating in the heat. Heat.
Exactly. And if we didn't run out the huddle, if we came out the huddle, we had to run to the line of scrimmage or we had to come back. And so, but with all of that, I never saw not one sign. And maybe because I just didn't know anything about that or an illness.
hmm
He never said anything about it as we was growing up. I don't know if he knew that he had it or not, but he just never said, he had that. But I learned that, after him and before him, that a lot of the family members had it. And everyone that's passed away, they passed away of that.
Hmm.
So it was pretty much through his whole family. But like I said, we started Head Start together, kindergarten, and went all the way through school together. So it was like there was this person you knew every day, every year that was going to be there. And I think that was our bond of always been there. And I know my wife used to ask me, he would call like that day when we was at my mom's house and we was going home and we would always call each other. Basically, we would watch the game on TV. At his house, I'm at my house, we on the phone. And she would always say, what do you guys talk about so much to be on the phone that long? And I would always tell her, I said, we just watching the game. And he'll be on the phone. Charles, did you see that? Did you see that? Right? And it was a delay between his and mine because he lived way out there off of Highway 90 going towards the Funiac, and I was right there in town. So,
All right.
but we did that often, because we worked and a lot of times had to be in bed. You know, didn't want to go over here and be up till 10, 11 o'clock, and
Right.
now you got to go home because you got to go to work.
Mhm.
You know, those days was past. You had to be in the bed and get some kind of rest. You know, you couldn't
Right.
live off that 2 hour sleep and put in 8 hours. You know,
No.
Father Time is undefeated.
So, did knowing someone once you came to a conclusion about what is happening to him, because you said you didn't know at first, right?
No, I never knew it until he passed.
Yeah.
Except the time they went and studied. You know,
Yeah.
they went up to. I remember they went to D.C. a couple times for some kind of treatment. I don't know, but I didn't think nothing of it.
Did afterwards, did knowing what happened to him change your perspective on life or have any kind of impact?
It changed because, with him, losing him and family members of the same disease, I also dealt with, in my family, we dealt with diabetes and cancer.
Mm.
So it was pretty much the, you was kind of focused on the fact that when you lost someone, my mother died of cancer, my sister died of diabetes, and my dad died of, heart failure, so it was a very thing that kept me about that versus, I knew that their family had it, but also there was family members that everybody was running along the same age because his sister and my sister was really good friends as well. And so you was seeing the stuff in your family and seeing that they go through the things that they was going through. So you was more focused on the things that you was dealing with in your family. You thought more of that, not that you didn't care, but at the same time we was losing those family members about the same time, because he lost his sister to sickle cell, um, probably about maybe a couple weeks after my mom
Mhm.
passed. So it was something that you was constantly dealing with, not just on his family, but as in my family as well, you
Right.
know.
So what what message would you give families currently, going through or living with sickle cell?
Learn more about it, spend more time with that person that's dealing with it because it's inevitable that one day they're not going to be here,
Right.
you know? And who knows? I mean, like I said, Father Time is undefeated. We don't know if your time is going to come before theirs, but just enjoy it. I mean, that's what I do with my siblings, because I got an older brother, George, he's 70, and he constantly talking about you know, well, I don't know when the next time when we're going to get to go to Ohio, you know, might be my last time. And I think about it because I know we had the family reunion here, and my grandmother, which is my mom's mother, she was here, and she always kissed us on the forehead. Even as adults, she still kissed us on the forehead. And I remember when she was down here, she was like, "Baby, give Granny a kiss, cause this would be my last time coming here." And that was in July, and she passed away that January. So we had to pack up and go to Ohio. So my message is to spend time, enjoy, learn more about disease. I mean, there's probably not too much that you can do other than love on that family member that dealing with that. Because I remember, for me, even though I see it a lot in my family, um, I I'm pretty healthy. I've never been hospitalized until maybe about 5 years ago. I wasn't feeling right, so I went to the hospital there in Niceville, and they came out the back with a wheelchair and told me I couldn't leave. And they told me my blood pressure was at stroke level. It was like two something over
Mm.
180 or 160,
Ooh,
something like that. Yeah, so I was up. They told me that I was at stroke level, and so I was in there. I stayed there for like 3 days, and then they moved me to Fort Walton, and I was there for probably about another 3 or 4 days. And I remember when the doctor came in, it was a lady doctor, and she came in like she was mad, and she said, "This didn't happen overnight." Basically, you know, you wasn't taking care of yourself. You wasn't monitoring this. And then there was another doctor came in and he said, well, you avoided us this long. Now you got to come see us. You know, so I mean, I was probably about 55. I wasn't on meds. I had no issues that I knew of. You know, I didn't think much of it. I was just living life as good as I can.
Right.
You know, until that happened. And so now I do pay attention to it. And I constantly tell myself and I tell others that, you know, for every action, there's a reaction, you know, so you pay attention to your body, the things that you put in your body, because your body is going to react to the things that you put in it, you know. So there are things that I don't do now. I just stay away from it because I was the junk food king.
What's your favorite? What's the thing that you had to get down with? I mean, it might end up missing in somebody's house if it was as far as junk food.
Sugar and pork. If you go look at my back seat now, I probably got 3 or 4 bags of popcorn.
Popcorn?
Caramel popcorn, cashew peanuts. Sugar is my weakness. Pork is my weakness. I don't eat it as much. You know, I don't know. It's just a thing that, you know, I keep it around. And because every time we have a cookout, they always want me to do the ribs. You know, Charles, you have to cook the ribs. Or if we making food like cabbage, Charles, you have to make the cabbage, you know. And they always tell me not to make it spicy. I love spicy foods. But I don't eat it as much, you know, even though I probably still cook it a lot, you know, because when I'm cooking it, I probably eat a whole slab. Just, you know, and I'm thankful.
That because I love me some pork ribs.
Man, I would eat anything pork, just about anything. I could be on my way to work and I'll stop at a store to get me some gas, and I might go in there and get me a bag of pork rinds.
Pork rinds.
By the time I get to the interstate, the bag is gone. Right. You know, but I've gotten so much better with it now, and I pay much closer attention. You know, and I even check it, even if I'm not feeling well. I'm just checking to make sure that I'm good. You know,
right.
So I think that would be the advice that I would give someone: is pay attention of what you're putting in your body. And whatever you put in it, pay attention of how your body reacts to it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to react to it, you know.
Yeah, I know. I found out recently, within the past year and a half, something like that, that I have G6PD. And a lot of people I didn't even know what that was.
I don't either.
I'm allergic. I'm not allergic. My red blood cells will get basically destroyed. I hemolyze if I eat things like soy.
Wow.
Soy is like in everything. I can't, so chocolates, I have to minimize that, or any potted beans like peanuts and green beans. And I'm like, you just not telling me this now? I've been eating that stuff. I grew up on peanut butter. What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
So now I can, you know, it's basically like you blood asphyxiation. So, you know, your red blood cells get destroyed. They're the ones that's responsible for carrying oxygen through your body.
Right.
So if they're gone, you can, you know, and it's a very hard thing. You feel like you're about to go like immediate, like a heart attack. It's bad. But like you said, so now I have to look at almost everything that I eat.
Yes.
What I drink also, I have to make sure, hey man, we can't have this stuff in here. A little snack can have soy lecithin in it, chocolate binders, and I can't eat it. So.
Well, you know, that was one of the things with Houston. He was allergic to alcohol. So he couldn't drink. So fortunately,
good allergy.
Yeah, but you know, they're going to always try to find something to substitute.
Yeah, you find
you know, and my older brother George, he's allergic to concrete.
Allergic to what?
Concrete. He can't be around concrete.
Wait. Yeah. How you find out you're allergic to concrete?
He used to drive concrete trucks and probably come from being in those things all the time. And maybe it's the lime that they put in it. So whenever he gets near it, he just breaks out in these sweats.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
concrete. That's
heart of the world. It's kind of hard to go anywhere without being.
Yeah, I know. My friend, she's allergic to bacon.
Yeah. Lord.
I know that's gonna hit you. That's pork right there.
Man, look at here. I got a big old George Foreman grill that'll hold a whole pack of bacon. I'll make me a BLT and I'll probably put half that pack on that sandwich.
Wow. Yeah, you love the pork?
Yeah, I love pork, man. It just doesn't love me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, going through this, and talking about, sickle cell and things, and people can be here 1 minute and then not the next. With Houston, his accomplishments, being that he's from Okaloosa County, and a lot of people don't even know who he is, right?
Yeah.
What is it that we can do is that to show how important it is? How important to you do you think it is for us to remember the heroes of our own county, our own communities?
I think it should be talked about more, and they probably don't know because, sometimes I don't talk about it a lot. And sometimes when I would be around people that have been around for years, and I would say my brother used to run for Muhammad Ali Track Club, and they was like,
Muhammad Ali Track Club.
yes, Muhammad Ali had a track club and he had a boxing club. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, you probably know some of the boxers that became champions, like Aaron Pryor,
Hmm.
Tim Witherspoon, Tony Tubbs. All of those guys was in that stable. They called them stables.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And all of those guys was in that stable before they became champions. And so, like, I remember the very first Muhammad Ali Invitational, and they had a press conference, and it was my brother Muhammad Ali and Aaron Pryor, and so I see that photo today, and I think like, wow, none of those guys are here today, and they was all. My brother would have been 60. He would be 69. He would turn 69 in February.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's transitioned. It's been over probably 10, 15 years ago, So, and Aaron Pryor. And there's also a lot of kids like that he competed a lot against. Harvey Glass. I don't know, how well all the guys in track and field. He just passed away in 2023. He was from Phoenix City, Alabama. You know, everybody
Southern
probably
boys.
heard of him.
Most people don't. They need to. Southern boys always been on that.
Yes. Well, I mean, you think about it. I remember when Lou Corso, he was on ESPN, and I remember he used to tell Alabama before they became big after Bear Bryant, and he was always telling them they need to go down to Florida and recruit some speed.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, so you need to go down there and recruit some speed. But the South is always known for, kids that speed like that. I remember when my boys was running the AAU, and they had the nationals out in New Orleans and Miami. They brought about 80 kids came to that national AAU meet, from little kids all the way up to high school. They had 80 kids out there at that meet. And I think my boys, I think they probably didn't even have 20, that come from that area. So, but it's more when you're in a metropolitan area like that, you have more options, So that does make a big difference. It's just like a lot of times when you look at boxers, a lot of them come from up north.
Right.
Aaron Pryor was from Cincinnati, and then Philadelphia and Detroit. They put out a lot of boxers,
Right.
So I think it's the area. And then you talk about basketball is usually like around New York, Maryland, places like that. So every place have their dominant sport that they just dominate in. That you're gonna have a lot that may come to that top of the pedestal in that sport.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. What would you say to an official Houston McTear Day?
But I would say I think I would like for it to revolves around like maybe a track meet, because I think when you look at some of the old photos back then, and if you just looked in the background, you would see the stadiums would be just packed. I mean, basically, it was like you didn't hardly see an empty seat. I saw one when he was had on the Baker jersey and he was crossing the finish line, and that was a hillside, and that was not that whole hillside was covered with people. And when we would have like the county meet, and it would be like at the high school in Crestview, man, that place would be packed. It was like the day where you had that county meet, and everybody came to see this guy, compete. And I think it would be something like that. Basically, would be a track and field day because you go. I don't even know if they even have the county meet anymore. You know, they do. Yeah, is in Pensacola. Ah, okay. But like I said back then, man, the crowds were just phenomenal, man. It was like it was a big thing, and I remember we was at a track meet once, and the guy that I competed with, I think the kids ran like a 11-second 100 meters, and Tyrone looked back at me. He was like, "Charles, we can run with them." I was like, I don't know, TC. I always had this saying, I said, Father Time is undefeated. We can probably get out there and run still, but I don't think we can run quite as fast as them, you know.
Well,
And
well, most people, a lot of young athletes believe that they have to go to a big city in order to be recognized and fulfill big dreams, right? So,
yeah.
as far as their mindset and discipline and family support, what do you think is most important, and should they focus on that more than the actual outcome of what they could be aiming for?
Well, you basically focus on your trade. And because the better you are, they're going to take you to places where the better athletes are. And so if you focus on going to a place, a metropolitan city where it's all going you got probably going to end up at if you're good, just focus on your craft, and the better you are at your craft, the more places you're going to go. And you're probably going to end up in that city, or that metropolitan area like New York, Los Angeles, or somewhere like that, because basically it's done more there and it's more visible there. So you're going to get athletes because when you look at a lot of the Olympic team, you would get a lot of athletes. Most of your athletes is probably from California, but they wasn't born there.
Right.
That was probably that gold mine where it was, and if you was good, that's where you went. And now, I mean, not only is not just LA now, but you got places that host events like this weekend, starting, gosh, probably early this week. They have the Prefontaine. Last week they was in Paris at the Diamond League. So this week they're in at the gosh, I can't think of the name of the field, but it's a real famous field. It's called a Prefontaine Invitational. So that's where they'll all be. So if you're good, you're gonna hit all those places, and that's what I used to tell my son. My oldest, he played basketball, and I was like, you know what? I said, this ball right here will take you anywhere in the world, if you're good. I mean, look at how many foreign players that's playing in the NBA, you know. So it's not about where you're from. It's about you mastering your craft and have that mindset. You want to be the best at it,
Hmm.
So if you're the best at it, you're going to end up in one of those cities.
Why do you think people need to go to local track meets? What's so important? Why do you think it's necessary?
I think showing those kids support probably will make them want to work harder because I'm gonna tell you, I love getting up on that podium and they say my name. You know, sometimes they didn't say my name first. And unofficially, your winner is the younger brother of Houston, Charles.
I'm
you
the
know,
one that say my name.
Yeah, let me be first because I won the race, and there was records that I broke of his in high school, but like I said, I was still in his shadow. But I accepted it because he was better, and he was on a higher pedestal than I was. So in order for me to get there, I have to work just as hard as he did, and
But
I
you,
wasn't there.
but you gotta admit, it's kind of hard. Now I'm putting this on you. I'm not saying this against you, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to forget every time when somebody says it because of not just who he beat, but what he beat.
Yeah.
So that's one of them things. Like, did you know this man? He beat what? He beat what? For those who don't know, can you tell the story, if according to your memory, what it is that made him the man, the McTear that
Uh-oh.
pushed him over the threshold
About
of
racing? Is it about racing that horse?
yeah. Come on, you
Well,
can't. How many people say that?
yeah, I often see You see people doing that today. Remember the guy that had the prosthetic limbs out of Africa?
He cheated, man.
And
Cheat.
but he raced a horse once, and then there was another one raced a horse. And I often say, I wonder if that's where they got that concept from, because he did it at the high school. Because he set the record in '75, so he didn't play football. It's just like a gymnast. When you're really good, you're probably finna be taken from your family, and now we're gonna take you to see how well you are, and we're gonna take you here to compete. You beat them, now we finna take you here. So I remember that game. I mean, I'm not sure if they still have it, but they always film football games, the high
Yeah.
school football games.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure that they probably filmed that too, because it was at the halftime and that stadium was packed. But I was one of those little kids, how you always go and you see those kids down in the end zone playing football, the little kids. Well, I was one of them.
So you weren't even paying attention to?
No. But I did know that the stadium was packed. And I think that was probably about the only football game that my parents ever came to. And very few. I think they went to a track meet down in Miami, and they went to a track meet out in LA, once he started competing for the Muhammad Ali track club, But other than that, I don't think my parents ever really, because back then you didn't have to get your parents' permission to compete or play like today. You just made the team, and a lot of time the coach gonna make, if you good, the coach gonna come and pick you up.
Right. Right.
So that, I mean, just try to master your craft, and the better you are, the more places you're going to see. It's guaranteed.
Your family has represented Okaloosa County with excellence for generations. What does representing this county, this community, means to you?
It's great, to know that, people, they hear of us, and every time you speak to some people, they always going to have a story. It might be different from what things actually happen. But to be in that family, I just simply think of it as we was just a loving family, and it didn't thrill us like it probably did a lot of people. It was great because I know sometime when he would be competing, that sometimes people would come down to the house and tell him he's about to race on a certain channel. They might be at the club and it might be on ESPN or ABC or something, and they'll come down to the house. Houston's about to run. Houston's about to run, and we probably never even knew that it was on TV, And as time went on, you see, because even now you can probably Google Muhammad Ali Invitational Track Meet, and you probably see clips where he from. And I remember on the Wide World of Sports, when back in '76, he was one of the highlights when it would come on. And a world-class sprinter, Houston McTear, will be competing. And, it was really an honor to, when you look back at it now and say, wow, that's really is pretty cool. That from someone from such a small place is on such a big stage, because you was good at your craft. And because you was good at your craft, that's why you're on that stage, But it doesn't go to my head. Like, like I said, a lot of people will be around me all my life, and I just never speak of it. And then all of a sudden, some days, because I'll be at work sometime, and someone will come around, and that's the first thing they'll say. His brother is Houston McTear. He used to run for Muhammad Ali. And there are some that have no clue. But I think his competitiveness and his talent speaks for itself. But even he was humble about it, because he was always saying that it was a gift, because it's very rare that, you get someone that comes from such a small place. Because I bet you if you put all the families that lived on that dirt road, it probably wasn't even 50 people, you know? Yeah, I'm talking from one end to the other. There was 8 of us, and the Thomas family, there was like I'll say 12 or 15. And then all the rest of the family, there might be 6, 4, 3, So on that entire dirt road, it was probably wasn't even 50 people. So to go from that dirt road to that household name, it's really, and still to this day. But you have to know about track, or been around it for long because you think about it, it's been 50 years this year. I did a thing, it was about 10 years on the 40th anniversary when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. The guy came here and I think I spent 2 days with him, you know. He left here, he went to London and hung out with his kids, you know. And he went Harold that used to run it. You know, his real name really wasn't Harold, but still to this day we call him Harold. And Harold lived in Dubai. And but Harold wouldn't do an interview, you know, and I'm thinking that he probably just didn't want to bring back that stuff from way back then because there was a lot of stuff happen. You know, Harold basically ran everything and Muhammad Ali Names was behind it, you know. And I'll give you a story nobody ever knows. Harold, Muhammad Ali asked Harold, where was he getting all this money from? And Harold said his wife's parents passed away and left her all this money. Like, you're talking about millions of dollars back in the 70s?
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of money.
Back in the 70s.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, but Harold was a slickster. You know, he was good. He had the gift of gab. Because I know when my brother first went there, they wanted to buy my mom this house. It was out by Sunset Village over in Crestview. And I want to say it was like an 8-bedroom, you know. I guess he wanted to be big enough for every child to have their own room. And my mom said, no, that's too big. She would have to clean all of that.
Yeah, you got that's a real
Right?
yes, she is in the reality.
Yeah, and they offered her one time to move to LA, and my mom said no. She got 6 other kids she got to raise, and she's not finna subject her kids to that. So when we got the house there on the park, across the street from the park, they wanted to put a pool in the yard. And my mom said no, she's not gonna be responsible for somebody else's kids drowning, you know, which was probably good, but it probably would have took up some space because I remember I used to have to cut that yard with a push pull. Get some of this space out of here, man. You know, put a pool back there. We have to break it in, you know. But I remember, man, we started out with it was a ride lawnmower and it broke. So my dad bought a push lawnmower and I was the one that had to do it, right? And I remember one time this kid came and one day he cut that yard for just $20. And I was like, wow. And it'd take me like 2 or 3 days, you know, 2 or 3 days to cut that yard, man, because it's like 2.5, 3 acres. You know, and it's probably only got not even 5 trees on it.
And he cut it with a push mower?
Put it with a push mower, all in one day. He started early that morning, and by that afternoon, he was finished.
So most people don't know that. Even when I was younger, we had to have that. We would give it, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
We would give him $5, and
It was in the summer.
and you said, go.
Yeah.
And you just go and find yards, and you better make it work.
Exactly.
And we come, baby. You want them shoes? You want this? You want this? You better go work for it.
Exactly.
And we got real good at cutting some grass. We got real good at cutting some
man,
grass.
I'll never forget that day, man. That kid cut that yard in one day for $20. I was never able to do it, you know. But I guess that it was back then, you know, in '75 to a little kid, $20 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I got the summer job, they used to have what they called a CETA program. You know, if you was 16, you got to work. And it was like $184 every 2 weeks. And I saved up enough to buy me a car. You know? So I bought me a car. So school started back and I didn't have a job, but it still needed gas.
Yeah, right.
So I would always ask my dad, you know, for gas money. And one day I asked him for some gas money and my dad says, I'm not going to take care of both of you. So one of you got to go. Well, I ended up getting rid of the car because I didn't have a job.
So we're going to try to bring it down to a close, you know. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes.
But if Houston was sitting right here with us right now, what do you think his message to the youth of Okaloosa County would be?
I think sometimes he could be pretty arrogant because he sat on that pedestal up there. So he would probably be a little arrogant about it a little bit, but at the same time, he would still be humble, you know. It's a gift. He would probably tell you it was a gift from God, you know, and basically everybody has one, and you go out and find yours and be the best at it, you know? And I'm sure he would probably try to help because, in his latter years when he had moved over to Sweden, he worked with Special Olympic kids. That's something a lot of people didn't know. And I think he was telling my boys when they was competing, he wanted them to come over there and compete. And he just kind of got ill and they never got a chance to go over. Um, but I think he would just tell them to just master their craft, be humble, work hard. If you work hard, it's going to benefit you, you know.
Right.
He did. He did. Well, I ain't going to say he really worked hard. It was just a gift, because even when they was with the Ali Club, they had a gym on Main Street in Santa Monica, but there was a park. It was just a grass. And that's pretty much what he worked out at, unless they was at Santa Monica College. And so even though back then when Baker didn't have a track and they worked out on the street behind the school, he would probably, doesn't matter what if you believe in what you're good at, just go and be the best at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as closing remarks, got it written down because I want to, stumble on myself. Right. Today wasn't just about remembering one of the fastest men in history. It was about honoring a family, celebrating a community, and recognizing that greatness often begins in places many people overlook. The McTear legacy reminds us that world-changing talent can come from small towns like Milligan, Florida, and that preserving those stories is just as important as celebrating the records themselves. As we look toward the future, may this conversation inspire us to support our local athletes, attend our community track meets, honor those who've paved the way, and ensure that the achievements of families like the McTears are remembered here at home and for generations to come. I thank you for joining us here on the Threshold Agenda. You were a great conversation. I didn't mean to put you in that moment, but it was real. I thank you for being real, and it shows that you really cared about your friend and that family, and you have the values, and you still carry them on today. And I'm sure you're passing them down to your the future generation and youth that you encounter. Anything else you want to say to the world?
Just be yourself. And if there's something that you like to do, just strive to be the best at it. And you will be amazed at where it will take you. You will be amazed at the places that you will get to see. And someday, maybe someone will be sitting here talking about you.
Right. All right. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All hearts and minds are clear. Be blessed.
Yes. That was